Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 11th episode at Ruby India. Ruby India brings together curated content from and for the Ruby Indian community and friends. We do regular newsletter highlighting content from the people in the community. One of the aims being to highlight people and their work in the community, which has also led to a start for this podcast where we interview various people from the community. Today, we have a very special guest from Goa, Aaron. He doesn't need much of an introduction, but I'll hand it over to Aaron so that he introduces himself.
Sure. Hi. My name is Aaron. People probably know me on the internet as Tenderlove, but my real name is Aaron. Yeah, I guess, yes, that's me. I'm from Seattle. I've lived there for like 15 years or so. And I've been a Rubyist for, I think, 10 years now. My first Ruby gem I released in 2005. So about 10 years, maybe a little more.
10 years of Ruby contributions.
I guess so. Yeah, you can say that.
From your anniversary.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us a bit about how you got started with Ruby and what are your early experiences when you started with Ruby?
Sure. So I guess I used to be I started programming. When I started programming for a job, I was a Perl programmer. I think I got my first job in 1999. And we switched to Java. Our company switched to Java, and I was a Java programmer for maybe 5 or 6 years, and I really didn't like it. I really liked being a Perl programmer. It was great because I loved the dynamic language. The frameworks that we were working on back then actually had a lot of the stuff that Rails has today, like just change the code and reload the page and it works, but maybe not so much. I mean, the main thing we were lacking was like doing tests. We didn't do any tests. No, we didn't do any of that. But I really missed that when we went to Java.
What did you work on?
The company was called classmates.com. So just a website, like I guess one of the first social networking websites, supposedly. But yeah, we switched to Java, and I didn't like it. I really didn't like it at all because the development process was very slow compared to what we were doing. And like the entire time I just thought, oh, Perl 6 will come out and then we won't need to deal with Java anymore. And I thought that for many years, and
It released actually. It did now.
Yeah, I heard it came out, yeah, but just a little too late. So I don't know. While I was at that job, like waiting for Perl 6 to come out, somebody at work said, "Oh, you should check out this language Ruby." So I started checking it out, and I was like, "Wow, this is what I wish Perl 6 was. Like, this is exactly what I want." So I started doing it in my free time, like while I was waiting for my Java code to compile. I would I would play with some Ruby code, and like I'm actually serious. That's what I did.
It's a fun way to learn it.
Yeah. So I was sitting there like messing with Ruby, and I mean, I guess that's how I got started working with Ruby. I was like, wow, this is a lot like Perl, but so much better. Just easier to use, better OO. Like it had all the nice like OO stuff that we had in Java, but it was just easy to use like Perl. So that's how I got started doing. That's how I got started doing Ruby. Actually, the first Ruby libraries I used. The first Ruby libraries I used were, or the first Ruby libraries I wrote were basically just ports from Perl stuff that I used, because Perl was close enough that it was like, well, I want to learn this language, so I just started taking stuff that I did in Perl and like, basically porting that to Ruby. So if you look through the stuff I did, my very early code, it's essentially just Perl libraries that were moved over to Ruby. So
And you were still not doing Ruby professionally.
No, I didn't start doing Ruby professionally until 2008 or 9, I think. So I mean, I was doing it. Actually, maybe it was earlier than that. No, that's too late. I started doing it in 2006 or 7. Yeah, I did it at work for like a year or two before I got a job really doing it. Like I quit being a Java programmer to go work for a startup company and just do Ruby all day. Actually, it was, to be honest, it was really terrible because at the time, at the time nobody was hiring Ruby programmers, right? So it was like it's really rare to find a job doing Ruby programming, and it didn't pay nearly as much as Java development did. So like, but I was just I was so depressed doing Java development all day that I was like, I don't care. I'll just take the pay cut and go be a Ruby programmer. So that's how I got my first job doing Ruby.
And how were your experiences early in your local Seattle community?
I started, so that was one of the ways I got better at Ruby was I went to the local meetups. We apparently
the first Ruby user group in the world.
Yeah, Seattle RB was the first Ruby user group. So I went there. I met like people were really friendly, helped me out, like helped me learn stuff, and I don't know. It was really good. I had a really good experience. People helped me a lot, and now I try and go and help people. So, I mean, yeah, it's a great user group.
And how many times do you have meetups or like I heard that you meet every week or something like that?
Yeah, we have weekly meetups, and once a month we do presentations. So like every week. The first Tuesday of the month we do presentations, and every other week of the month we just do like hack nights. So people come and just hack on stuff. Like typically I don't hack on anything. I just help people. I'm like, hi, you're new. Like I'm the greeting person. I'm like, oh, you're new. What are you working on? How can I help you? You know.
So I've heard from Ryan that, or in general, we have heard that you guys also work on reading books. You have book clubs, and now you also work on projects like Rack came out of, no, not Rack. Some of the projects which are there from Seattle Abbey, they actually came from working together in hack nights, I guess.
Yeah, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but yeah, we hack on libraries a lot at Seattle RB, just like little, nothing super amazing, like little stuff. Then we release it, just mostly fun stuff. Like, I think one of my projects was embedding a PHP interpreter inside of Ruby, so you could call PHP from Ruby.
Yeah.
But it's like that's just that kind of that's the kind of stuff that we do, and we do do like a study group and book club thing. I don't participate in that as much. I just don't have time. Ryan does it mostly. The last time I participated, we did we studied SICP, structure interpretation of programming. Yeah, so went through that. That was a lot of fun. I just wish I had more time. I don't know how he does it.
And like they do it once a month or every 3 or 4 months or something like that.
Yeah, I think they do. We took longer on SICP than the other books take, but it's typically like 3 or 4 months. They meet every week, and then it takes like 3 or 4 months to go through a book. Just depends on the book.
So let's talk a bit about your open source work and how you got started with your OSS work.
Sure. So the first open source code that I ever wrote was, or the first time I ever did open source stuff was in 2001 on Perl code. But it was really minor stuff, like just sending a few, sending patches here and there. When I really got started doing it was when I started doing Ruby, just because like I think it was because I didn't have any coworkers. Or I mean, I had coworkers, but no coworkers in Ruby, right? So like, I was trying to learn Ruby, so I'd take this stuff from Perl, port it to Ruby, and then just release it as open source for, it was useful, basically tools that we used at work, but they were just in Perl, and then move it over to Ruby, and then hopefully somebody found it useful. So that's how I got started doing it.
What projects did you start working on?
So the first one I ever did was called Name Case, and all it did was, it's actually really bad. It's a very stupid gem. All it does is it takes, if you have a string that has a name in it, it tries to change it so that it's cased correctly. It has the right case. And this is it's totally broken. The reason we had that, or the reason I did this, is because for some reason, on our website, we stored everybody's name. Everybody who registered for the site, we would store their names completely in uppercase.
Okay.
And the reason they did that was because Oracle's text search was faster when it was just one case. And then, of course, when you display the names, it doesn't look very good if everybody's name is uppercase. So they had to change that to be normal case. But of course, this doesn't work because the rules are too complex. You can never get it right, right? So that was the first library I worked on, and then the next one I worked on was Mechanized library. And somebody had already started working on this. Mechanized is a library for navigating websites programmatically. Actually, I used that one to buy Lord of the Rings tickets. So that was the next one I worked on. But somebody had already started that, and actually I just took it over from. He was like, "I don't have time to work on this anymore. Would you like to take it over?" I'm like, "Yes, I would." So I took that one over and started working on it. So I think that's where I was motivated to do open source stuff, because I didn't have anybody to work with in Ruby, and I wanted to talk to people and learn more. Yeah.
And then you also started working on Nokogiri.
Yes. So we started working on Nokogiri because Mechanized's HTML parser backend used to be the ReXML, the XML parser that comes with Ruby, but it was very, very slow. So we switched to HRECOD at the time, and it was much faster. But then we started getting a lot of bug reports that were like, it doesn't handle certain HTML correctly. So if you parse a HTML page and it's broken, the HTML is broken, it doesn't do it. It doesn't fix it the same way the browser would fix it. We weren't getting very good support on that, getting those bugs fixed. And I decided to try libxml, because libxml has an HTML parser, and it actually handled all these cases correctly. So I started working on Nokogiri with Mike D'Alessio. He and I worked on it a lot. So that's basically how it got started. Is it corrected we were both using Mechanized, and this corrected the HTML better than the previous solutions we had. So yeah.
And how did you get started with Rails and Ruby, both of those?
So I started doing, I was doing just Ruby at the previous job when I was working at Classmates, and actually I did a bit of Ruby, and then the Rails, the blog, the blog video came out, and I was like, whoa, this is awesome. So I started I started playing with Rails at my job. So that's how I got started, messing around with it. But yeah, I basically, I started trying to rewrite our website using Rails, but it didn't go anywhere. People were not happy. I actually gave a talk about it at the company where I was working, and one of the guys got super mad at me. He's like, "We'll never use this. There's no point. Why are you showing us this? You're wasting our time." So anyway, a few of the people who worked there quit and made a startup, and they used Rails for their site. And then that's basically how I got a job doing Rails. Was I knew these people, and they're like, "Okay, we'll hire, you've been messing around with this, we'll hire you to do it, and we know you." So that's how I got into Rails. That's how I got doing it professionally.
And then how you got involved with the
contributing. Yeah. Oh, that's
Did you
harder.
find some bugs and decided that okay, I will fix this?
Yeah, basically we'd run into bugs once in a while in Rails, and then just while we were using it, I would try to fix it. So I'd send patches for that. Honestly, it was hard at first because like frequently I'd run into bugs, and then they're like I'd fix it, and then they were already fixed. Just we weren't using like we were using the release version, and it was it was already fixed. But you know, eventually we'd run into bugs, and I'd actually fix it and get in a patch for that. I think I went back and found the first patch I ever submitted, and you can see it's rejected. I think Jeremy rejected it.
Okay.
I think. And then that's mostly how I got involved with Rails, was just doing that, doing that, and then kind of the same thing, kind of the same thing with Ruby. It was like actually not so much bugs that we ran into, but you know, I would just like look at the issue tracker and there was a bug, I'd try to fix it, or you know, we would have some issues with standard library code. Just fix those, you know, fix those and send patches for that. So that's like basically that's how I got started with that. Is I guess the fixing Rails code was out of necessity for the job, and then fixing Ruby code was just I wanted to do it. It seemed like fun. So
your work on Rails is, I mean, it's pretty. Everyone knows about what all you do in Rails, but what all things you work on Ruby is a bit. Many people don't know about that, so it would be good to know about what all things do you do.
Yeah, I maintain. So mostly what I do is, well, I have a few roles. I'm on the security team. So anytime people report security issues with Ruby, I help with those. So, which is, I don't know, it's the same as any other bug stuff. It's just private, you know, like people report an issue, I test it out, try to put together a patch, write release notes for it, stuff like that. Also, I'm in charge of 2 parts of standard libraries. So Psych, the YAML parser, and then also one called Fiddle, which is an FFI wrapper. And I guess I'm also in charge of DL, which I hope we're going to delete, or I want to delete it. So DL is basically a library that's similar to FFI, but it existed before FFI existed. So the idea is like we should be able to delete that now. Yeah, it should just go away. Actually, we did it once. We deleted it, but then it got reverted for the delete got reverted for Ruby 2.2. So I'm hoping that we can redo it and actually it stays deleted for Ruby 2.3.
I think most of the part for DL is actually not even documented.
No.
Yeah.
It's not.
All right. So one question that we like to ask everyone is, what are the difference for your day-to-day programming, and what is your basic setup when you start working? Like what editor you use, or what terminal do you use, or in case of pair programming, what all things do you use?
So we use I use Vim as my editor. Mac Vim. So I generally work on a Mac. I use Mac Vim. I use the default terminal.
I think that's the best thing, because then you don't need to. You're not stuck to your own machine.
No, I'm not. I just use the default terminal, and I think one thing that is different about me is that I use a white background. I think most people use a dark background, but I use a white background.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, I don't know. It obviously.
Yep.
I have a special keyboard that I use. So I use an Ergodox.
Right.
And I use a Norman key layout. I actually have one of my keyboards here, but I have a special keyboard that I bring with me for traveling.
We'll put a pic of it.
Sure. Yeah. What other tools do I use? I don't know. Just web browsers, of course. Chrome, Safari.
So you work from home, right?
Yeah. I work from home. I work for Red Hat. I don't think I mentioned that.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And so when you're working from home, do you make use of standing desk or something like that?
No. At home, I just have I have a regular desk. I use an external monitor. I've got an Aeron chair, which like I thought an Aeron chair was. I didn't buy one for a long time because I thought it was so expensive. I was like, oh, it's too expensive. I don't want to spend. Yeah, I've had it for so many years now. Like it's so many years and it works so well. Like I should have bought one. I should have bought one a long time ago. But yeah, I love that thing. Actually, the next thing I want to do is try to get my monitor moved up so that I can kind of lean back more when I am working. I started getting like basically carpal tunnel syndrome, so I switched. Yeah, that's why I got a keyboard. Like I got the ErgoDocs and then switched keyboard layouts, and actually it helped a lot. I don't get pain anymore. Although I don't know, it's weird. I don't know if that's because I just changed everything, or if it's actually better for me. Right? I don't know.
I mean, and also in terms of like when you're working on some open source project, like let's say you're trying to debug Ruby, what all different things that you use for debugging it or working around the project?
Sure. It depends on the situation. Like if I'm just trying to debug Ruby code, I'm really bad at this. Like probably many people can do better than me. I usually just add a puts. I'm like,
I mean, that's the standard way of.
Yeah. Well, I usually what I'll do. I know this is super terrible, but what I'll do is I'll just put a puts in, or like I'll raise an exception in the place that I care about so that I can get a stack trace, and then just like look up and down the stack. So I don't know. It'd probably be better if I use a debugger, but typically like I use trunk Ruby. Right. And no debuggers, like typically no debuggers work with trunk Ruby, so that's why I just use those things, and I'm fast enough at debugging those.
Ruby doesn't ship with it, so
no, Ruby doesn't ship with a debugger, so it doesn't can't really use one. But I'm typically fast enough debugging it that it doesn't matter. But that's typically what I'll do with Ruby code, but I'll use a debugger if it's C code. If it's C code, like if I have to debug C code, I'll use a debugger. So I think if Ruby shipped with a debugger, I'd probably use it.
I want to have to work on it.
You should. I know that. So there's new C APIs that would let you build a debugger. So
yeah. So let's talk about. You recently switched to Red Hat, right?
Yeah.
So what communication workflow do you use when you work for a company? And what tools do you use for the communication or managing issues?
Yeah. So yeah, I work at Red Hat. I worked there for about 9 months now, I think. And then we use a variety of things. Actually, it's really awesome. We're very distributed, so our team is really distributed. So we have a lot of tools for working remotely, and it actually works really well. We use IRC a lot, which I know is weird. Lots of people probably use Slack or even Campfire.
Even in the Rails and Ruby team, you use all of these tools.
Yeah. So the Rails team we use Campfire. Ruby team we use IRC. At work we use IRC. And then at work we use, so for managing projects and stuff, we use Trello, and then also GitHub. All of our stuff's on GitHub, and we'll do stuff with like issues and pull requests on GitHub. And then we also have a Bugzilla tracker, but that's mostly for like, it's not Red Hat internal stuff. It's just like
your project that you're working on.
Yeah. Like everybody at Red Hat, whenever anybody at Red Hat runs into any bugs with our stuff, or like our QA team runs into bugs with our application, they file tickets in Bugzilla. So that's what we use for that. And then we use, for video conferencing, we use a tool called Blue Jeans. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's just something. Well, I think the main reason we use it is because, so Red Hat's like really open source. So nobody wants anything that's proprietary. So, and everybody's using Linux, right? So we have to find a video conferencing thing that works on Linux and ideally uses non-proprietary stuff. So this company actually provides video conferencing stuff where you don't have to have a special or a closed source driver to watch or to do the video conferencing. So that's why we use them. But yeah, that's what we use. We do daily stand-ups, which I like. I don't know. I mean, we do them every single day, and I don't know if that's super important to the projects that we're working on, but it's really important to me because I actually get to see my teammates every day. So I actually think
these are physical stand-ups.
Yeah. Over on video. Well, on video, I mean, so we everybody video conferences in, and then we're like, hey. Yeah, so it's actually important to me because then I can make contact with my team, you know. So yeah, I think that's all the stuff we use. Yeah, I really heavily rely on IRC and email.
Okay. Right. Heading towards the end of our discussion, and we have lots of questions that we got from Twitter. So Arun Agrawal asks about how was your travel experience in India?
Yeah. It's really awesome, but also too hot.
You're in Goa, so that's fine.
No, I mean the food is amazing. Everybody's incredibly friendly. I've been having a really great time. Yeah, it's just too hot. if they need to work on
room with your AC on.
Yeah. Sitting in the conference room with the AC was great. I was so happy. They need to work on outdoor air conditioning.
Probably next time when you come.
Yeah, next time.
Kashyap asks about how do you profile your issues, and so the recent RubyGems issue that you fixed about number of allocations, dropping the allocations. How do you start going about solving those issues?
Sure.
Mainly
so
about profiling.
Sure. Yeah. Let's talk about profiling. So, actually, that issue was very interesting. I didn't actually fix it.
But you found it.
No. Somebody. Well, I found some parts of it. One of the, people every once in a while people complain, oh, RubyGems is slow. Mm-hmm. But they don't ever give a benchmark or say what exactly is slow. They just say, oh, this is slow. This guy reported a bug saying, hey, RubyGems is slow. And I was like, okay, can you show us how it's slow? And he was the first, it's very rare. He was like, yes, I'll show you. And he actually gave us a test case proving that it's slow. So then he also gave he sent a patch to fix it, but the patch broke all the tests. And he was like, I can't, not all the tests, some of the tests broke the test. And he's like, this would speed it up, but it breaks the tests. So I don't know what to do. So I started profiling it, and I found this place. And the tools that I use for finding, well, actually, I'll finish the story and then tell you about the tools. Anyway, I come up with a fix for it, and the fix passes all the tests. The whole suite is green. I think it's correct, but it was so much faster that I didn't believe it. So I sent a pull request because I wasn't sure for sure. And Eric reviewed it. And he's a maintainer, and then Evan reviewed it, and he said he said it was okay. Eric said it was okay. A whole bunch of people said all of a sudden people, I tweeted about it, then tons of people looked at it, and they're like, everyone's like, it's okay. And then somebody posted to Hacker News, and they're like, they made fun of me, and then also more people started looking at it and said, it's fine. So then I was like, all right, I'll just merge it. So I merged it. Everything was green, and the guy who originally reported the bug comes back and comments on it, and he's like, actually, you made a mistake right here. And I was like, no. He's like, you made a mistake right here, and I was like, well, okay, but all the tests are green, so I don't know. So this guy was very awesome. He was like, okay, he wrote a test showing how Ruby Gems was already broken, like, and then he wrote a test showing how my patch broke it more. Well, broke it differently, not more or less, just differently. And then he wrote another test, another test showing how he thinks it should work, or how he thinks Ruby Gems should work.
Yep.
And then came along later and actually sent a fix making it work the way. I can't remember and I can't pronounce it. It's M something. Look it up on the ticket. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it was really, really awesome. So anyway, back to tools. So to find those types of bottlenecks, I'll use. I like to use Trunk Ruby a lot because there's a lot of tools that ship with Ruby on Edge that help you find these things. Like Ruby has an allocation. You can use Koichi's allocation tracer gem. That's one of the tools I use for finding all the object allocations. Also, you can use in Trunk Ruby, you can actually trace, you can turn on allocation tracing, which is different than the allocation tracer. Allocation tracing will, anytime you allocate an object, the object keeps track of the file and line where it was allocated. So you can say like, hey, tell me where you're allocated, so you can track that down. And then I also used StackProf, the StackProf gem. So those are the main things I use, is the allocation tracer and the StackProf gem.
Okay, right. Yeah. So we have Abhinandan. He's asking about your journey on becoming an awesome ballet dancer and amazing programmer.
The journey was long.
Tireless.
Yes, tireless. Yep. Yeah. You just every day you got to work out every day.
Right. Anup asked about your thoughts on other Ruby implementations and also about specs in Ruby, and also another thing he would like to know is how did you get your name? That is Standalove.
That's a lot of questions. Okay. Ruby implementations, I think Ruby implementations are great. Or having different Ruby implementations is awesome, because we can explore different ways to implement Ruby, different ideas for making it faster or better, etc. Of course, MRI is the best one. I have to say that because I'm on the core team. But no, having other implementations is really, really awesome. Ruby specs, we should write them. Yes, they should be written.
I mean, like something like ISO specs or something like that. Not just specs, but something like C specs.
C specs.
I mean, C has a standard specification.
Oh, like a spec for the language itself.
Yeah.
I don't care. I mean, I guess if you want it, but it doesn't really, having a spec doesn't really impact me on a day-to-day basis, right? Like, even if we had a spec for it, Matt's is going to change the language however he wants to. He's not going to say like, oh, it's in the spec, so I can't touch it. It's his language, so he's going to do whatever. As a developer on a day-to-day basis, it's not really going to help me out, you know?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. What else was he asking? I forgot.
I think that's the last question.
Okay.
How did you get the name?
How did I get the name? That's a long story. Well,
I think it's the last question. So
okay. Actually, I don't want to tell that story. Let me tell the story about my parents finding out about the name.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I tell my parents a lot. One of the things I do to practice giving talks is I tell my parents what I do a lot. Like, frequently, I'll tell them what I do. And both my parents are engineers, so they don't like. It's fine to be technical. Yeah. It's fine for me to be technical with them. They're not programmers, but they're engineers, so it's like, you know, it's fine. And since they don't know programming, I have to explain it to them in a way that they'll understand it, which I think helps giving presentations, because like you can assume that I basically assume that everyone in the audience they're a technical person. They're
Right.
a technical person. They just might not know what it is that you're talking, that you're presenting, right? Anyway, so I thought it would be nice if they saw what I do for a living, right? So there was a conference in where I grew up, and I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah, and the organizer invited me to speak, and I said, okay, I'll speak, but you have to, on one condition, you have to give me 2 free tickets for my parents. And he was like, yeah, absolutely, I'll do that. So I go to the conference with my parents, and I meet the organizer, and he's like, oh, great, we've reserved 3 seats for you down at the front. And I'm like, okay. So all of us walk down to the front, and there's 3 seats, and there's a sign on each of the seats. And the first one says tender love, and then the next one says tender mom, and then the next one says tender dad. and I'm just like, no, not now, not right now. So I had to explain to them. I was like, yes, people know me on the internet as Tender Love. Just a lot of people are gonna ask you about it. Just don't worry about just don't worry about it. So yeah.
All right. Really, no one asked about anything about Gorby Puff, but they must have
Yes, I have a cat. His name is Gorby Puff.
Yeah. So someone was asking me about. You have a lot of pictures and images for Gorby Puff, but not for Choo Choo. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. I mean, Gorby Puff is he's been used in a lot of Rails tests.
Yes.
He's a celebrity kind of cat, but
Why not the other one? I don't know. She's honestly she's a lot more shy. I'm serious. Like when I have friends come over, she just hides. You can't find her anywhere. Also, you can't pick her up. She won't it's really funny. You can pick her up, she just gets mad. But she won't scratch you or anything. She just stops moving, like she's dead or something, and she's like, yeah. So, yeah.
all right. So we are coming to a sunset now, and I think we have also reached to end of our podcast. So it's great that we got a chance being in Goa to hang out with you and ask you so many questions.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks again. Thanks for being in India and speaking at the conference.
Yeah,
thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you.
No.